Hey, good afternoon. Thank you for being here. We are excited today to not only have our regular biweekly press conference, but to release our crime plan that we've been discussing over the last couple of months. To us, this is a very, very important thing. It's extremely important that the community and officers know exactly how we're going to address crime in the community. And we want that to be a collaborative process. We also recognize that crime, particularly violent crime, is bigger than the police department. And so we'll talk about some of the ways that we're going to be collaborating with other entities from Metro government in order to change the course of neighborhoods and have some of that sustained change, and how this is part of the larger safety plan that the mayor's office will have, where we'll talk about changing environments and changing neighborhoods, and he's going to be really getting at the root causes and the drivers of poverty and violence in our community, and that'll be part of his larger public safety plan. But I do want to start off by saying thank you to Goodwill for hosting us today. If you are not familiar with the Goodwill Opportunity Center, it's an absolutely amazing place. They are a community partner that is driving change in our community. What they're doing to help people change their lives is absolutely amazing, and I would encourage anyone to look into either helping, or if you need assistance in getting a job, education, job training, reach out to Goodwill, and they are a one-stop shop for resources in all of those places. So we'll start off by giving you an update from our officer-involved shooting that occurred last night. We are very fortunate that no one was more seriously injured. The two officers involved are Officer Laxman Archaya and Brendan Kerner. They're both officers from the 4th Division. They are doing well. Officer Laxman has been released from the hospital last night, and Officer Kerner went through surgery just a couple of hours ago for the injuries that he sustained to his hand. And we hope that he is released from the hospital shortly. Very, very proud of these officers. There's another officer that was out there with them doing proactive work. That's exactly what this community needs, is we need officers that are going to go out there, do the hard work that it takes to keep this community safe, and we're very proud of that type of work and all the other officers that are doing that on a day in and day out, night in and night out basis. So we pray for their speedy recovery and look forward to the prosecution of this suspect. Okay, just a little crime overview on the numbers right now. Our homicides are currently sitting at 136. I will say that the homicide unit made 3 arrests last week and closed out 3 homicide cases. That's great work by that unit. They are tasked with solving some of the most difficult, intense crimes that we have, and they're doing an absolutely great job with it. Our non-fatal shootings are sitting at 336. We just looked into some of their case-solving rates and what they're doing as far as clearing non-fatal shootings, which again is one of the more difficult crimes to clear. They're doing an absolutely amazing job, and our clearance rate has gone up exponentially in the past couple of years since we instituted the non-fatal shooting unit, whereas before we did not have a centralized unit like that was dedicated just to dealing with non-fatal shootings. So once we put those resources in there, that's an opportunity for us to take more violent people off the street. So coming to our strategic plan, like I said, this is an extremely important thing for us. We want every officer to know exactly what's expected of them. I think one of my complaints when I was an officer riding the beat was that we had all of this data and all this information, but how is it getting to those officers, and what are the directions that we're giving officers? And then on the back end, what's the feedback loop so that officers know that the work that they're doing is having an impact? And so this will be a 3-part plan that we'll go over in detail with Deputy Chief McKinley in just a minute. But very excited about it. Look forward to your questions. And at this time, I'll introduce Mayor Craig Greenberg.
Thanks, Chief. Thanks, Chief. Good afternoon, everyone. It's great to be with you all this afternoon, and it's great to be once again for the second time this week at the Goodwill Opportunity Center. As you heard the Chief say, there's so much great work that's going on every day here at the Goodwill Opportunity Campus, helping individuals improve their lives, and it's also a great reflection of the momentum, positive momentum that we're seeing all across our city. This is just one of many examples. One of many examples here in West Louisville, where just in the past week or two, we opened the first hospital just next door, Norton West Louisville Hospital, the first hospital in over 150 years here in Louisville. Last week, we opened Stellar Snacks, one of the largest economic development projects in West Louisville's history, that opened a great new project there as well, creating new jobs. And we've been celebrating new business openings all across our city. We have positive momentum in our parks and improving our parks, and building new libraries and improving our existing libraries. We're seeing positive momentum with affordable housing and early childhood learning and so much more. And I'm pleased to be here today with the chief and the team at LMPD, along with Deputy Mayor David James, Deputy Mayor Nicole George, and others from my administration, to talk about the positive momentum that we're seeing in our ongoing work to improve public safety in Louisville. Protecting public safety and health is our number one priority, and that means a commitment to doing things the right way. It means keeping all of our citizens safe, while also ensuring that we do that with accountability and transparency. Because every resident in every corner of our community deserves to be safe and feel safe in their neighborhood, in their home, in their daily life. And so to do that, we're working with LMPD on both short and long-term strategies that are part of a well-thought-out plan. For example, on the long-term side, we want to prevent crime as much as possible from happening in the first place. And we do that by working with people who are on the wrong path and helping them find better options through programs like GVI, or through many of the programs that Goodwill offers here and at other locations around the city. On the short-term side, the chief just talked about the number of shootings and homicide. Those numbers are still unacceptably high. We know that we have to do more to reduce gun violence. So that's what we're doing. We're taking action. We announced last month that LMPD and my office are working in partnership with the Commonwealth Attorney's Office, the County Attorney's Office, the Kentucky Attorney General, and the Circuit Court Clerk's Office, and more. These partnerships are designed to identify and arrest the people who make the choice to commit violent crimes. Because the reality is that gun violence in our city, a lot of the gun violence, a high percentage of the gun violence, are caused by a relatively small number of people. And these few people cause a disproportionate amount of harm throughout our community. And so LMPD and our administration is focused on getting these individuals off the streets, and by putting members of violent gangs in jail and out of business. And you'll hear today, a little bit later today, about one of those examples, where thanks to a plan that LMPD had, they were able to execute that plan, and they were successfully able to dismantle one gang in our city that's causing a significant amount of challenges. That is just one example of the proactive police work that LMPD is doing under the leadership of Paul Humphrey, and that we're pleased to talk about today. But it's just one example. It's part of a broader plan that you're going to hear more about in a minute, a bold, smart, new plan for reducing violent crime in Louisville. You're hearing about LMPD's part of that plan today, and you'll continue to hear more from our administration on what we're doing community-wide to continue to make Louisville a safer city, a stronger city, a healthier city. So now here to give you a few more details about that LMPD plan, let me introduce Deputy Chief Emily McKinley.
Thank you, Mayor. We're really excited to be here to release this plan, to talk to you all about this plan. We've kind of alluded to it for a while. And so, a well-defined crime strategy ensures that all stakeholders, whether that be police officers, other members of LMPD, community members, members of other metro agencies, are all aligned in their role and understand their responsibility to reduce crime in our community. And without a plan, efforts can become scattered and unorganized. And so this crime strategy for 2025 outlines to the community and to LMPD officers how LMPD and other metro agencies will make decisions, how we will allocate resources, and how we will collaborate in our efforts to reduce crime and make Louisville a safer and stronger city. We understand the community's concerns when it comes to crime and safety, and how important that is to everyone, no matter where you live in Louisville. and we're committed to addressing crime, especially violent crime, head-on. And so the overall goals of this crime plan is to significantly reduce the number of violent crimes, homicides, non-fatal shootings, significantly reduce property crime, especially auto theft. We've seen that go up over the past several years. Significantly improve community trust and engagement. And then overall, establish a foundation for long-term sustainable changes to improve neighborhood conditions that contribute to violence. So our crime plan, you'll see, has three fronts that work simultaneously. These are not steps. These will all happen collaboratively together. The first is data responsive policing. So this is our short-term plan. What's happening right now? Leveraging data and technology to identify crime trends. So conducting crime analysis to identify small locations within Louisville where crime is occurring right now. Deploying resources to those areas, whether that be officers or investigators to those areas. Continuing to assess those areas for evidence of sustainment, or do we need to reallocate resources? And using problem-solving strategies in our divisions to eliminate crime problems. This is focusing on how the department as a whole is working together to find solutions to this problem and not just the specific divisions. The second part of the plan we call violent offender enforcement. This is continuing our enforcement efforts to concentrate on repeat violent offenders in our city, those who are contributing the most to violent crime. This includes our prohibited firearm possessor program in CID, which Major Rudy here in a little bit will talk about, as well as focusing our efforts to serve violent felony arrest warrants and continuing our collaboration with the GVI program, the Group Violence Intervention Program within the city of Louisville. The third and long-term strategy we call sustained focus improvement. Using a variety of measures and statistical weighting procedures, we've identified 5 geographic locations in Louisville that we've determined to have the most opportunity for improvement and additional focus for resources to interrupt the observed chronic violent crime patterns and improve the overall feeling of safety to those in that area. To address the underlying conditions that lead to chronic crime and violence in these areas, we will focus on 5 components: the community, the environment, patrol, investigations, and technology. We know that addressing crime requires collaboration, and policing and enforcement and arrests are not the sole solution. We're working with state and federal partners, as well as other metro agencies like Metro Parks and Public Works, the Alcohol and Beverage Control, Codes and Regulations, and the Mayor's Office, and others to find creative solutions to address the root causes of crime in these areas. Now I'll turn it over to Major Alicia Rudy. She's the major over our Criminal Interdiction Division. She's going to give an example of some recent work in our Criminal Interdiction Division, specifically involving the dismantlement of a local a violent gang. This is just one example of the violent offender enforcement strategy that I talked about earlier, that in practice and how this coordinated focus on the right individuals causing violence leads to a safer community.
All right, thank you. I'm Major Alicia Rudy. I'm with LMPD's Criminal Interdiction Division. We often refer to it as CID, so if you hear CID, that's what we're talking about. The first slide, it shows you what our primary focus areas are. And so the first 3 are pretty self-explanatory: gangs, guns, drugs. And the last one is the violent felony apprehensions. We have several squads of detectives who work day in and day out to try to apprehend violent felony offenders, and they work at the direction of our Major Crimes Division, most often homicide, non-fatal shooting squad, and robbery, to help catch these violent offenders. Within those fall the Prohibited Firearms Possessor Program and the Group Violence Intervention Liaison position that Deputy Chief McKinley mentioned. The next slide shows some of the outstanding work that CID has done this year. These are our year-to-date stats for 2024. As you can see, there are a substantial number of illegally possessed firearms that have been seized, thousands of pounds of dangerous drugs that have been taken off the street. and many felony arrests. The federal indictment number that's highlighted in red there is at 79, and we are actually expecting to add a few more before the end of 2024. We work very closely with the U.S. Attorney's Office and our federal partners to be able to prosecute those cases that often end with very lengthy sentences for these violent offenders. I'm extremely proud of their work, and I tell them often how much I appreciate the long hours and the patience and hard work that goes into building cases that represent this level of success. So CID focuses, their investigations are most often related to the drivers of violence, which are the gangs, the guns, the drugs that I previously mentioned, and the violent offenders. By intentionally interrupting these specific criminal activities, they're also interrupting the cycle of violence that we all wish would end in our community. So this slide, we're going to take a look at the gang they mentioned that we dismantled. This case was worked between December of 2022 and December of 2023. So this crime plan, while it's new and it's being put in place, these are all strategies that we've been using for a long time, and we're just looking to make them more organized, better communication, and work better together. So this case was led by the CID's Firearms Intelligence Squad and the ATF. Our friends over at ATF were a huge help in this case. And then we also had help from our Major Crimes Division, the rest of our CID squads, and our intel analysts, who we could not go without mentioning. They are a huge help in everything we do. This investigation started following a string of violent incidents that included a handful of homicides. I think there was 5 homicides, 3 non-fatal shootings, and then a handful of drive-by shootings or shootouts where rival gangs feuded with each other, or sometimes even within their own group, and would shoot at each other, but maybe no one got hit, but there was property damage to be investigated. Once the 23 individuals were identified, the investigators and the agents worked meticulously to build good cases and arrest these individuals and make sure they were prosecuted properly. Some of those cases are still ongoing in court. A total of 18 of them were arrested, and by dismantled, we mean they were rendered ineffective. So the string of violence that they were committing in our city that we were able to connect using our technological tools, we were able to then realize, okay, this string of violence is being perpetrated by the same group of individuals. So of those 23, 18 of them were arrested. And these are some of the stats that cover that. So the group of 23 was made up of 17 adults and 6 juveniles. So this is our youth. The oldest in the group was 23 and the youngest was 15. And then the average age was 18. There were several guns recovered, as you can see. 12 of those 18 that are being prosecuted are either in custody or on home incarceration or under supervision with probation and parole. Our hope, back when this case was worked, we didn't have as well-structured of a GVI, was just getting started. So now that they are up and running, we are hoping that when these individuals come back into our society and they get released, that they can be on a much safer path than they were on. So we have turned the names of each of these individuals over to our group violence program, and they are going to work to get these young men back into society. And I think the most important stat of all that's up here is this group of 23 gang members, as of October, when we gathered this information, every one of them was still alive. So hopefully they can transition back into society, make better choices, be on a better path, and stay that way.
Thank you, Major Rudy. And again, great work by your unit, your team. Again, just highlighting that every single person that they arrested in this case is alive, and that is our goal, is keeping people alive, keeping people safe. And so if that means that we have to take you to jail or put you in prison to keep you alive, we are going to do that, and we are committed to doing that. And that's exactly what this plan is intended for, keeping people alive. But we can't do this alone, and so we need the community's help. We need your support to report crime, to engage with our crime plan, to engage with your neighbors, with each other, to build relationships with us and each other, so that we can have a safer community. And so we've created a community survey to go along with this crime plan. We want to hear your feedback. We want to hear what you need, how you want officers to interact with your neighborhood, what you're seeing in your neighborhood, and if you have any suggestions of how we might be able to change the crime plan or things we need to add in the crime plan or something might be missing. We want to hear your feedback. And so there's a QR code here that will take you to a community survey that we will use to analyze those results and how we can make this better for all of us. As human beings, we each deserve to feel safe, not just be safe, but feel safe. That's very important for everyone. And so that's what our goal is with this crime plan, making our community feel safe for everybody. Safety is a shared responsibility, and LMPD is fully committed to doing its part, but we need your help too. And community safety requires effort from all of us. Together, we can create a safer city where everyone can thrive. And now we are here with two of our deputy mayors, David James and Nicole George, who have agencies under them that are going to participate in this plan. And so I'll give them the opportunity to come up and give a few words to everyone on this plan.
Thank you. So in order for this to work, it requires us to do, you may have heard the mayor say before, a whole of government approach. And so in order to do that, we have been working with the agencies that report to us, myself, Deputy Mayor George, have been working with those agencies. For example, people should know if a police officer comes to your door, which is something that they do when you call them, but they come without being called, and they say, "What can I do to help you in your neighborhood?" Don't think that that's going to be anything unusual, because that's a part of this plan. And if the police officer hears what they say, they may say something, for example, well, this sidewalk in front of our house has been broken for years and we've reported 1,000 times and no one's done anything about it. Because of the relationships that we have and the understanding that we know that we're working with the police department and Chief Humphrey to make that work, then Chief Humphrey will get that information. He knows to contact Deputy Mayor George and say, this is one of the areas that people in this area really need to have fixed, because not only do we want to make people feel safe, we want people to understand that government cares about them. This is not only about arresting people and putting people in jail, it's about fixing vacant and abandoned properties. It's about making sure that Metro Safe 311 is able to receive information from police officers that they know that they can talk to those folks and say, hey, there's a problem in this neighborhood. If we had a street light in this alley, I really know that crime would cut down in this alley. Or I know that people would stop breaking into this house. Or they can reach out to Richard Price at Codes and Regulations and to say, we have a problem in this particular neighborhood where people are breaking into these vacant and abandoned properties and bringing in violence and crime into the neighborhood. And the police officers are empowered to report that. Director Price is empowered to fix that. And so it's a whole of government approach to make sure that we in Louisville are taking care of the citizens that are most impacted by crime. And so working together through every agency within Louisville Metro government, whether it's GVI, Office Healthy and Safe Neighborhoods, Public Works, Public Health, we're all working together to help the mayor and to help the police chief and his team do this project. And I think it's going to be an outstanding project, and it's something we've never done before, quite frankly. And I'm very proud of the police department and the team you've assembled to make this work. Thank you very much, Mayor. Thank you very much, Chief Humphrey. Thank you.
Well, first of all, let me just say what an honor it has been to be able to watch the plan come together and to be able to see how much energy and intention and inclusivity went into the work. The type of community life that makes living in cities great is dependent on safety and order. We all have a role to play in this work, but especially our public health and public service agencies. Deputy Mayor James did an excellent job being able to bring together the collective, which is Metro government. The work of these agencies are a foundation for sustainable change. Things like litter abatement, alley cleanups, traffic calming, and green space, just to name a few, that make a neighborhood safer, but again, also signal that social order and investment. And of course, this doesn't begin to touch on all the other pieces that Deputy Mayor James referenced around the work of course, abandoned properties and alcohol beverage control. With our efforts around sustained focused improvements, we know that this is a long-term process, but we can also see things in the immediate. And it is incredibly empowering to do a cleanup, to report a sidewalk, to focus on some of the infrastructure improvements that, again, really allow for safe and accessible community public spaces, and that really lead to that sustainable change, which will happen over time, but again, can be seen in the immediate. And so the conditions creating crime obviously weren't created by any one entity, and the goals of the strategic plan cannot be solely accomplished with LMPD. And so for that, of course, the agencies of public health and public services, they're ready to stand at the side and work with community and LMPD, and we're excited to be included in the partnership. Thank you.
So again, I want to say thank you to all of our partners within Metro government, and thank you to everyone who's here and participating in this plan. We had a meeting last week, 2 weeks ago, and the way this is going to work is there's going to be a quarterly meeting amongst all the stakeholders in this, where we go through what are the projects that we've had come out of this sustained focused improvement project. And so where are those? What's the status of them? And we now can hold each other accountable to making sure that we get those things done. And that first meeting was actually pretty amazing to put all of those people in the room that we've all kind of worked in our own separate silos to do our jobs apart from each other, when in fact we have much more capability when we work together. And giving these resources and putting these resources in the hands of police officers who, we're not going to fix a street light, we're not going to shut down a business who is constantly causing problems, but we're often the liaison, the first person that makes contact between the community member and their need for help. And so our ability to connect people to resources is fundamental to this. And so to give that tool to officers to be able to solve people's problems on a larger scale is what this is about. So you're going to see us doing proactive police work, which means that we're going to lock people up. That's an enforcement thing, as well as proactively contacting people to understand what their problems are and get them taken care of.